I suspect that my mum is having an affair with my best friend's mum. My friend Susie and her family moved to our town almost 3 years ago. I've always been into sports, and Susie matched my enthusiasm for them, so we became good friends. Our mums met through us, and they became good friends too. My dad got promoted to a different location a few years ago, so he spends alternating months with us. He lives with us for a month and away from us for another. We got used to that arrangement. Mum used to be lonely, but after she met Susie's mum, they became best friends. I was thrilled that she had a friend. But a couple of months ago, I noticed that both of our mums had been disappearing sometimes after the practice started. I didn't think about it much, but last week, we were let out of the practice early, and when I came out, I saw them kissing in the back of the car. I hid immediately, and they didn't see me. I started paying attention to their relationship after that, and they seemed too close. I think they're having an affair. Susie's dad died before they moved here, so she's a single mum. What do I do about my mum? Do I confront her? Should I get more proof? Should I tell my dad first? It's been eating at me and I don't know what to do. And now in the comments, you want to tell someone? Well, now's your chance to walk into the adult world and have a conversation with your mum. Tell her what you saw and ask her what's going on. Try that as the first thing that you do. Some people have arrangements that you aren't aware of. This completely. Tell her how it makes you feel and ask for an explanation. If dad is already aware, then it's possibly okay. If he isn't, then you should let your mum know that you don't want to be in the middle of this and she needs to fix it, one way or another, for both you and your friend's sake. I mean, if your story is true, you literally caught them making out in the car, so yes, they are having an affair. Suspect and seeing are two different things. You need to talk with dad. If you talk to mum first, she'll probably deny and just hide it better. It is an ugly situation to be in. No, I don't think she should tell her dad. That's terrible to put her in that position. It's the adults that are doing this. Wait, so her father deserves to be cheated on? Imagine how he would feel if he found out his own daughter knew and decided to hide it from him. Why are you so adamant on protecting a cheater? Is that some projection that I'm picking up on? No idea why people say to confront the cheater first before telling the betrayed. That just gives them time to get rid of any evidence they may have overlooked. You really shouldn't be having to deal with this, but unfortunately, here you are. Rock into hard place. My mum cheated on my dad for years. He was unaware for the majority of it. I wasn't, but too young to really understand why my mum had a new friend all the time until I was about 11. They divorced when I was 13 because of my mother's activities. Anonymous phone numbers, emails, hell, even the internet wasn't around back then. I wish it had been. I would have used it to notify my father that something was very amiss in their marriage. Anyway, you should tell your dad first. Do it anonymously if you're uncomfortable with letting him know who it is informing him. At least he can have the ability to look into it more and investigate. It could also be that they do have some kind of arrangement between the two of them that allows your mother these types of freedoms, so just give him a heads up. If nothing changes, then you have your answer. If things do change, well, that's an answer as well. At least your conscience will be clear. And now on to the update. So, I waited a few days before I talked to my mum. I was very nervous. When I asked her if she was having an affair with Susie's mum, she started laughing. I was very surprised by her reaction. She video called my dad and told him about what I'd just asked. They smiled at me and told me that my dad knew about it. She told me that he was tired of hiding it and was happy that I found out. I wanted to know more about how they got together, so she explained this. Apparently mum used to have girlfriends before she married, and my dad knew about it. Half a year ago, she was drinking and talking with Susie's mum. Susie's mum told her about her previous relationships with women. They kissed that night, but my mum felt guilty about it and told my dad. My dad had always felt guilty about leaving us alone for so long. They talked and came up with an arrangement where she and Susie's mum could be intimate while dad was away. The only reason they didn't tell me was because they were nervous about how I would react to their unconventional relationship. I told them that I was happy as long as they were happy with their relationship. They wanted to know how Susie would react, so they asked me if they could tell her. I told them I'd try and find out. Several comments indicated this was the case, but it still surprised me. I'm happy that my mum found a partner since she felt lonely whenever my dad had to leave. Thank you to everyone who offered advice. And now in the comments, they were making out in the back of the car while their kids were in sports practice? That's kinda weird. My sister's dad slept with his affair partner in the hospital parking lot after my sis had given birth. Just because something falls in the bucket of things that are important to my child doesn't mean people won't allow their horny hormones to get the better of them. I'm happy everybody is happy in this scenario, but it could have gone a lot worse for OP and her friend. Kids can be vicious to each other. Wow, there is unbelievably screwed up, and then there's that. It gets worse. Baby was in the NICU, and he didn't go up to meet them, just drove off with the affair partner after sexy time was over. I never liked him as a step-parent. I thought throuple for sure, but nope, just two people comfortable in their relationships. Honestly, I wonder whether dad is involved and they just didn't feel like it was necessary to give their daughter all of the details. Hearing about your parents' sex life is weird enough, no need to go beyond reasonably answering the questions that kid asks. I gotta wonder what will happen when dad is back in town full-time. Well, they'll communicate and work it out just like they did the first time. And I understand the arrangement is consensual, but this angered me a bit. It's dismissive of OP's feelings as if it was some quirky, happy-go-lucky misunderstanding. Oh, OP, you saw me secretly making out with someone who wasn't your father, my husband, and immediately assumed I'm cheating on him? What a hilarious conclusion to make, you big silly goose. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that really got under my skin. It could always be a nervous laugh. OP admitted that they were very nervous going into the talk, and their mum may have picked up on that. When she realized it was about the affair, it could have just been a stress laugh like, oh god, I thought it was going to be so much worse. Lord knows I've done the same countless times. Of course, it's hard to tell without actually being there, and she didn't immediately dismiss it. She called her husband to help clarify the situation for OP. It is reasonable to call dad and explain the situation so OP doesn't think that she's lying to cover her own ass. Our next post is titled, "My husband caught me reenacting a scene from The Lord of the Rings, and I am so embarrassed." Since when I was little, I loved reenacting movies that I loved. I would jump around the house playing on Spider-Man or whatever. Back then, it was a normal child thing, right? But the thing is, I'm doing it still. It's like a form of relaxation for me, I guess. So today, I got back home from work and I still had an hour before my husband would come home from work. So I closed the shutters a little to create an ambience, and I played the Lord of the Rings soundtrack on YouTube. It was time for me to reenact the scene when Frodo and Sam are going to Mount Doom. So I'm there playing Frodo in the living room, music filling the room, and I hear from the doorframe, "What are you doing?" My husband stood there in full suit, looking at me a little suspicious. I didn't hear him coming at all because of the music, and on top of that, he came half an hour early. So in my head, I was like, crap, what do I do? What do I do? So I stopped the music and said, "I was just dancing. Lord of the Rings, you know?" He replied, "I thought you hate dancing." At this point, I was red as a carrot, embarrassed because my husband just caught me shouting, "Destroy it! No! Throw it in the fire!" No. Isildur! He started laughing, but I feel so stupid and weird. It's a weird thing to do, I know, but it gives me happiness. It's a rest for me. I feel so childish though. And now in the comments, if your husband doesn't find this ridiculously charming, he's missing out on how goofily lovable you are. Absolutely. The right response to, "What are you doing?" in this situation is to grab him and say, "Come on, Mr. Frodo, I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you." Dun, 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 dun. Your husband intentionally married the whole you, including the part that reenacts Lord of the Rings, and he certainly already knew about this part of you on many levels, even if he might not have consciously, specifically known what form this part of you would have taken right then. Tell him. Don't assume he'll judge you. Lying about it is just going to make him not trust you. "I wasn't dancing earlier, I just like to reenact movie scenes sometimes. It's fun." It could be a form of interpretive dance, I suppose. You never know. You might have a Sam to carry you, and you might not have to hide this if you're just honest and trusting of him. Tell him that you were ashamed and didn't know what to say because you were worried that he'd laugh at you, but you trust him not to mock you for doing something unusual like this. If I found out my wife did something like this, I would think it was cute and I'd join in, if she let me. My wife never does anything silly like this though. She's too self-conscious to be a person like this. And OP replies, "Thank you for your advice. I will tell him. Your husband is a lucky man. Carry on." Right? I can't even keep my wife awake while watching a sci-fi movie, and she couldn't do the same to me while watching a crime and thriller one. We're from different planets, I guess. You obviously never hung out with the theater kids if you think this is odd or embarrassing. In college, the theater kids I knew did a live-action remake of Ratatouille in the commons of our dorm and had one of my classmates up on the other one's shoulders as a rat for like almost 2 hours for no reason at all. Exactly. I think OP missed out. My 11-year-old is already the most dramatic kid in her class. When they did readers theater, she insisted on bringing props. Her teacher totally understood and encouraged it. I was like, kid, just wait until you get to high school and can join drama club. And now on to the update. Yeah, okay, this kinda blew up. I think I owe you all an update. So, as many of you suggested, I told him. I told him it helps me release stress and anxiety and feels basically like rest. He actually said he finds it pretty neat, and I don't have to feel embarrassed at all. My relief can't be described in words. He said he would like to have a hobby like that to help him relieve stress, so I told him that we can try to do it together. He said it's not his thing, and he would probably feel awkward, which is totally fine. He suggested he would call me a couple of minutes before getting home so he wouldn't spook me again, and ask me if I wouldn't like to read him the first Lord of the Rings. He never read it, with the voiceover. So I did a couple of pages, he fell asleep on a couch. Of course, still in full suit. Thank you all for your kind messages. Don't worry, I read them all, and I appreciate them very much. You are really so sweet and kind, and thank you for the awards. And now in the comments, I'm always mortified when I'm singing alone, and my husband yells from somewhere in the house, "Sing it, baby!" I can totally relate to OP. My wife once said she could hear me singing badly in the living room from the bottom of the garden once. I just laughed and said, "That means our poor neighbors heard it too." She laughed and called me an idiot. Wholesome husbands hyping up their wives? Damn. Should be the norm. What's the point of marriage if you don't hype each other up? Also, what's the point if you can't be silly and childish and have fun together? I want to enjoy life, not hide how I have fun from my life partner. That's why you don't hide who you are when dating. Find someone who will improve your fun, not someone who will look down on it. This is cute. I randomly make animal sounds or accents to relieve myself from stress within the confines of my personal space. Sometimes, from a mile away, my husband will reply in the same animal language and accent, i.e., ribbit, and he goes, ribbit? We are all odd creatures when no one is looking. Could be worse. He could have caught you reenacting Smeagol with a fish in your mouth, or holding up his his cock ring, chanting, "My precious." Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for not letting my brother-in-law be referred to as an uncle to my kids?" I, 32 male, and my wife, 31 female, just welcomed our baby girl into the world 3 weeks ago. Our families were so overjoyed for us. We couldn't have asked for a better family unit. Everything was going great until my sister called and said she could wait to come visit us. We live 5 hours away, so insert baby's name could meet her aunt and uncle. When she said that, my wife and I just looked at each other dumbfounded because 4 years earlier, when they had their first kid and my wife and I met them for the first time, she said, "We don't feel comfortable with our kids referring to your wife as an aunt because she isn't blood." At that point, my wife and I had been married for 6 years. It made no sense to us, but we accepted it and moved on. We were always Uncle Jay and insert wife's name. When they finally get up here the following weekend after all the kids have been put to bed, she referred to her and her husband as aunt and uncle. We talked to her about what seemed to be a double standard, saying, "We are really a fan of how my wife can't be an aunt, but her husband can be uncle, and how to avoid confusing the kids, we would prefer if he were just referred to by his name as well." She started yelling, saying it's different, and that woke the kids up. She got even more pissed at that, grabbed her 2 little ones, and stormed out of the house, and got a hotel for the night. My mum and dad called me and told me that I was being petty and to call and apologize. They're right, I was petty, but I won't stand a double standard and have my wife, my partner, my teammate be treated as if she is not a part of the family. We've been together over 10 years. So am I the asshole for not letting my brother-in-law be referred to as an uncle? Edit, my sister and wife get along well. My sister was kinda jealous of my mum's liking of my wife. My mum is a very hippie soul, go with the flow kind, and so is my wife. My sister is very type A, and always wished she could be more spontaneous and like my mum. And now in the comments, did she offer an explanation of why it is different? Seriously, I am normally a non-confrontational person, and as soon as someone gets mad, I apologize, even if it's not my fault. But this is different. I would stand my ground. So no, OP, you are not the asshole. I also want to know why sister-in-law thinks there's a difference between OP's wife and brother-in-law. Well, you see, it's different because this makes the sister feel bad. Not the asshole. It's not different at all. It is literally the same thing. It's different because it's me, not the asshole. Tell her that you'll consider letting him be an uncle if she can explain why her husband can be an uncle and your wife can't. It sounds like your sister harbors some resentment for your wife for some reason. If the only thing she can come up with is she isn't blood, then she can go, insert something unpleasant here. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. I gotta say, just from the title, I was gonna go in the other direction, lol. But this is a classic case of someone not liking the hole they dug. Too forking bad. Maybe let your parents sit with this for a while and then ask them about this double standard. But be prepared for not liking the answer. Good luck. Oh my god. All of our close friends refer to my husband and I as aunt and uncle, even though we have no blood relation to their children. It's not 1 or 2 families, it's like 6. We never asked for this, but they were very stoked they saw us having such a relationship with their kids. And now on to the update. Sister, mum, and dad agreed to a Zoom call later tonight, after we're all home from work. We live in different time zones. Update 2, mum called me on my lunch, she's retired, and she asked me, now that dad's not around to influence her because my dad is old and grumpy and doesn't like drama, what exactly is going on? I told her the entire story, and she was floored, and apologized for assuming that I was being an asshole, and that she would help me talk to my sister later on the Zoom. Update 3, Zoom call. I would like to start out and say my parents had no idea about my wife not having the title aunt. They were pissed at sis for that. I won't go into full detail, but to summarize, my sis isn't referred to as aunt to my brother-in-law's niece and nephew, so she took it out on my wife. The reason she got mad at me for throwing her logic back at her is because she wished she would have said something to her sister-in-law and felt like if she started calling my wife aunt now, it would confuse the kids. After a long Zoom of confessions and tears on her side, my wife is Auntie N now, and my brother-in-law is Uncle A. All ended well. Thanks for the advice and support. And now in the comments, what was wrong with this sister? I mean, how can you justify to yourself implementing a stupid rule that you yourself were hurt and annoyed by on someone who wasn't involved at all and whom you actually like? It comes up all the time on Reddit that there are 2 types of people in the world. Those that have suffered and want everyone else to suffer the same as them since they had to go through it, and those that have suffered and do what they can to prevent anyone from having to suffer in the same way. This is sadly so true. It says a lot about a person's character and moral development when they are hurt and therefore want others to hurt similarly. Why is no one giving any crap to the brother-in-law? This dude is aware of pretty much everything that is happening and is essentially letting his sister walk all over his wife. His wife sucks, but I have a strong suspicion that he sucks even more. This 100%. Look at her brother standing up for his wife and her husband being all okay about this treatment. Quote, now that dad's not around to influence her because my dad is old and grumpy and doesn't like drama. What the heck does that even mean? I'm no fan of drama myself. I consider myself grumpy. Guess I'm getting oldish, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna hang around my wife when she's asking questions, barking at her just because I don't like it. People who are raised in an old school way are used to internalizing issues and often think conflict resolution is everyone just shutting up and not expressing a feeling. This is especially prevalent in men who were taught that feelings equals weakness. These people are often grumpy and miserable because they don't deal with their negative emotions. And that's where I'm going to leave today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought about it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.